So today I'm going to be deconstructing some misconceptions about transgender people. So originally my objective was to kind of define what transgender meant and then kind of take us through the process and the varying ways people go through that of transitioning. But based on my pre-assessment, this is all we really have time for. But I want you all to, although you already did it, I want you to write down what your definition of a transgender person is. And we're going to kind of look at some possible misconceptions within those definitions. So just, your best guess from what you know. I'm just going to give you a little bit of time for that. And you just look up at me when you're done. Alright, so feel free to keep writing if you're still writing. But so why is this so relevant to me, and why should it be relevant to all of you? I myself am a transgender man, which most of you do not know, so surprise. And I've had some negative experiences coming out in our very own nutrition department here. So I want to kind of break this down for you so that when you interact with transgender people in your future, it's a positive experience for them, and it's also a positive experience for you too. Transgender people face a lot of, Okay, right, so just look at these statistics behind me. Transgender people face a lot of violence and discrimination. And you have to understand that simply not knowing or understanding or refusing to learn what a transgender person is fueling this violence and discrimination. You have to understand that ignorance can be an act of oppression, and we're all responsible for combating that oppression by educating ourselves. And this is especially important to us as people in the healthcare field, because there are already so many barriers to transgender people feeling comfortable with their healthcare providers. So let's look at some of our definitions. So how many of you, for your definition, put any of the following expressions? Biological male or female, born a man or a woman, male or female bodied, or becoming a man or a woman, or like identifying or feeling like a man or a woman. Raise your hand if you did that. Okay. So just take these expressions and just throw them out. These expressions are dehumanizing and invalidating to transgender people. These are no more than sensationalizing hooks used by the media to exploit transgender people. For example, a transgender woman did not used to be a man. She's not born a man. She's not a biological male who feels like a woman. She just is a woman. Gender is not something we were born with. It is something that is assigned to us when the doctor looks between our legs when we're born. So to exemplify this, can someone here raise their hand and give me an example of how you would define a biological male?
Person born with testes and someone who produces sperm.
Okay, and any other things that come to mind? Chromosomes, perfect. Any other things? Okay, so, but when people think of biological sex, they say things like chromosomes, like testes, and also hormone levels, right? But when was the last time that you had someone check your sex chromosomes? Do you know what your sex chromosomes are? When was the last time you had a doctor check your estrogen and testosterone levels? We don't really know these things, so really what are we talking about here? We're talking about someone's genitals. And reducing someone down to their genitals is not only objectifying, but this whole genitals equals gender philosophy is just sloppy science. Are you really going to tell me that it's a woman who has higher levels of estrogen than testosterone in her body and has breasts and curves and hips and everything, but still has a penis, is a biological man? No, it's not that simple. There aren't just two categories, not only for gender, but for sex as well. So everybody stand up. And I want to just repeat after me. Okay. Some women have penises, and some men have vaginas.
Some men have penises.
my body, and therefore it is a man's body. And so that leads me to my next point. How many of you use the trapped or born in the wrong body expression in your definitions? Okay, so, I did get some on the pre-assessment though. So this is Janet Mock. She is a New York Times bestselling author, host of the pop culture critique show So Popular, and she is a transgender activist. Can anyone read this quote for me about her opinion on the trapped in the wrong body narrative?
Why don't I like it? Because it places me in the role of victim, and to those who take mainstream media depictions as truth, I'm seen as a human to be pitied because I'm someone who needs to be saved, rather than a self-determined woman with agency and choice and the ability to find who I am in this society and who I will become in spite of it.
Right. Transgender people are not passive victims who have some freakish disorder. We're people with agency taking control of our bodies and our lives. Our bodies do not control us and they do not define us. And not all transgender people have negative feelings about their bodies. But still, to be diagnosed as transgender, the medical diagnosis is gender dysphoria. So what is gender dysphoria? Gender dysphoria is a feeling of discomfort or unease from certain aspects of yourself, such as your body, the pronouns people call you, or your voice, not aligning with your true gender identity. But there's a new term being used in the transgender community, and it's such an amazing term. When I heard this term, I cried. Big manly tears of joy. It's called gender dysphoria, and it's this sense of joy that you get from feeling aligned with your gender identity. And this is so amazing because it puts transness in a new light. It's not some tragedy, which is what we're always shown in the media. It's a positive experience about self-love and self-discovery, and that's really important. And due to varying levels of this dysphoria and euphoria, not all transgender people transition. But how many people put something about physically transitioning or taking hormones or surgery in your definition? Right, so that shouldn't be in your definition because that's not the case for all transgender people. And this is Laverne Cox. I'm not going to read this quote, but to paraphrase it, she's the actress from Orange is the New Black, and she's the transgender activist. And essentially what she's saying here is that if you're only interested in transgender people's bodies and our physical transitions and the effects of hormones and surgeries, that's objectifying to transgender people. Because what we really need to focus on is their experiences and, like I said, all the wild statistics about the oppression and violence faced by transgender people. So please go out there and learn about transgender people and hear our stories, because we're not crazy genital transformations or shocking before and after pictures. We're people, and our gender identities are valid, and we deserve respect. Thank you. And then I want you all now to, I know I didn't actually define it, but I was hoping that by just saying what we shouldn't have in our definitions, we can redo our definitions now and maybe they'll be a little more accurate. And yeah, so just go ahead and write it again. Like a new definition. And then while that's happening, does anyone have any questions?
Just want I mean, the line between sex and gender, right? Because like my definition of a male versus a man are two different things, right? There's male and female sex based on, I mean, in my opinion, or biologically, based on can you develop a baby inside of you, or you produce sperm.
Plenty of cisgender women can't develop a baby inside of them. Plenty of cisgender women don't have uteruses. So like I was saying with my example, if someone who has breasts and higher levels of estrogen, these are things that categorize you as a biological female. But they still have a penis, they don't have a uterus, they don't have ovaries. So science is trying to like put us in these two categories. It's not just gender that is limiting us, you guys, it's sex too. And I didn't get to mention non-binary identities and intersex people, but some people aren't born clearly biologically male or female. And that kind of just shatters this whole BS male or female category for biological sex. And I really want to drive that home, you guys. It's not just gender, it's also biological sex. So I mean, what would you say to that? You know, someone who has both characteristics from biologically, not gender, just biologically male and biologically female, do you think that we can really categorize them just that simply as male or female?
Is sex-wise or gender-wise?
Sex-wise.
I mean, no, that's a standard thing. I mean, again, I think you're absolutely right when there shouldn't be just two, but when just looking at a male or a female, whether it be a human being or a plant, right, they have very specific organs that they're born with. And that's, I guess that's how I always looked at like sex versus gender. You know,
Someone's genitals.
well, gender is very separate. Sex, yeah, someone's sexual organs is what I looked at as sex.
But genitals are not the only thing that classifies as biologically male or female. So if someone has a penis but they also have higher levels of estrogen, is that like they're not biologically male? They may not be entirely biologically female, but they're definitely not biologically male. That's reductive and it's bad science.
So I guess my question is, do you separate then gender and sex in your, you know, in your eyes, or are those two things which is a human being is identifies with both of them?
Yes, they're two separate things. Let's see if I had a bunch of stuff I was going to show you guys, but okay, yeah, so gender identity, gender expression, sex, who you're attracted to romantically and emotionally, or sexually. So these are all separate things. So yes, I do think that sex and gender are separate things, and that's why your sex doesn't determine your gender.
I agree with that, yeah. Good slide.
I don't have time to go.
It's a good
over
holiday.
this, but- Does anyone have any other questions?
No, good job.
Good job.
Thank you.